Excuse me, Mrs. Adelson? How you doing?
Donna Adelson is this maniacally obsessed mother-in-law.
Your ex-husband, Daniel, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Dan, he was a very involved father, a loving father, and he spent every minute he was free with those boys.
I swear to you on my life, I was not involved with Danny's murder.
I don't imagine that Wendy Adelson could have had a worse person to be in her ear during that divorce than Donna Adelson.
Dan was hurt by Wendy, but he saw Donna as dangerous.
She's a meddler, not a murderer.
Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
My only short question to Donna, was it worth it?
The death of a college law professor in Tallahassee, Florida, started as a murder mystery, which took years to unravel. The investigation would expose a plot that included hired killers, an old girlfriend, and a wealthy South Florida family with an unlikely mastermind. I'm Ted Rowlands, and this is Victim to Verdict. Just northeast of the campus of Florida State University is a residential neighborhood called Benton Hills.
Benton Hills is this community within Tallahassee that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's rolling hills. You've got these Spanish moss and oak trees lining the streets, kind of arching the road. You feel safe, and the reason you feel safe there is it's really a neighborly neighborhood.
It's kind of quintessential old school Tallahassee. It's considered to be an upscale neighborhood. It's not certainly the kind of place where you expect people to be getting executed in their garage.
911, what's your emergency?
We heard a loud bang and his car pulled away from next door. His driver's side window was shattered and he spattered the can into it.
Just before noon, on July 18th, 2014, 2 gunshots shattered the peaceful quiet on Trescott Drive. 41-year-old Dan Markel was found sitting in his 2008 Honda Accord in his garage. He had been shot at point-blank range. He was bleeding from his head and was unable to respond. Dan Markel was still alive, but wouldn't be for very long.
A cold-blooded murder happening in Benton Hills just doesn't happen. This is a quiet area, and the residents are alarmed.
Dan Markel was 41 years old when he was killed. He was a divorced father of 2 and a rising star at Florida State's College of Law.
Dan had everything going for him. He had it all. He had the pedigree. He was a brilliant teacher. He was respected by the community. He could have gone anywhere.
Here's a guy who at 17 years old gets into Harvard University. He ends up at Hebrew University for a short time in Jerusalem, and then winds up graduating Harvard Law.
Our second speaker is Dan Markel, speaking about retributive justice and the demands of democratic citizenship.
Dan Markel was particularly interested in something called retributive justice. He basically felt that people deserved a second shot in life.
Murder, for example, is a kind of law that I think everyone agrees on. It would count as, a necessary feature of any criminal law to be just. You'd have to have a law like that.
At the time of his murder, Dan Markel was a divorced father of 2 young sons. His life was focused on his love of the law and his boys that he shared with his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson.
In law school at FSU, when you would go to the professor's doors, they would have law review articles on it. They would have things that they've done, right? Not Professor Dan Markel. From the top of his door to to the bottom of his door were drawings that his two boys made.
Dan Markel was extremely involved in his son's day-to-day lives. In fact, 2 hours before he was murdered, he called his ex-wife, Wendy, asking about taking the boys swimming.
Hey, Wendy. Good morning. 9 o'clock on Friday. Wanted to get down swimming to take the boys up early this afternoon. Getting tickets and then have them ready for you around 4:30 or 5.
Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel married in 2006. They divorced in 2013. Like Dan, she was an attorney and a professor at Florida State University.
She and Dan Markel were active in the Jewish community there in Tallahassee, though Dan was much more devout when it comes to his faith. And that was part of the reason that they ended up splitting up.
The day Dan Markel was shot in his garage, police tracked down Wendy Adelson, who was at a restaurant having lunch with some friends. They brought her back to the station and told her what happened.
Your husband, your ex-husband, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay?
Wendy is called to Detective Isom's interview room at the Tallahassee Police Department, and therein ensues a very long interview, multiple hours, somewhere like between 5 and 7 hours.
I know a lot of people didn't love him, but not anyone who would hate him. This could be a little argumentative.
Right.
He didn't do anything except work and take care of his kids. I can't believe it's happening.
If there were a top 10 for craziest police interviews ever, Wendy Adelson's interview might be #1 on the list.
Coming up, the search for Dan Markel's killer leads police to 2 Miami hitmen.
I mean, they're just bumbling fools. And these bumbling fools led to the conspirators who were hiding in the dark.
And Wendy Adelson's police interview leads investigators straight to her brother, Charlie.
He makes a lot of jokes in bad taste. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman and it was cheaper to get you this TV.
When Florida State law professor Dan Markel was shot in his garage in July of 2014, his neighbor, James Geiger, who had heard the gunshots, looked out of his front window and saw what turned out to be the getaway car.
There was a car that was rapidly backing out of the driveway. It caught my attention because it seemed to be going so fast. It appeared to be a Prius, a light-colored Prius, maybe silver or white.
That street doesn't have cameras. So Mr. Geiger, the neighbor, sees what he appears to be a car, maybe a Prius. That was the key piece of evidence that the FBI utilized to start the investigation.
On the morning of the murder, Dan Markel dropped his kids off at a daycare just before 9 a.m. He then went to Premier Health and Fitness to work out.
Investigators are able to pull surveillance video where they can see Dan Markel going to the gym that morning. They capture him walking inside, and then a couple of minutes later, they see a light-colored Prius circling.
About an hour later, Dan Markel left the gym and headed back to his house on Trescott Drive. He's picked up on a video from a Tallahassee city bus. And there on the video, just behind him, a silver Prius.
One of the frustrations for the Tallahassee Police Department, they have the make of the car and they just could not figure out a tag number for this car, which essentially left it unidentified.
At 10:51, the Prius made a left turn onto Benton Road to go to Dan Markel's house. 4 minutes later, the Prius was seen on a different bus camera heading north towards I-10, and 2 figures could be seen in the car.
See something white moving around in the passenger seat?
Yeah, the white shirt, the person in that side of the car seems extremely animated, excited.
Using cell phone data, investigators were eventually able to identify those 2 men in that car. Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia. They were both from Miami.
Luis Rivera is someone who had ties to the Latin Kings gang, and he was good friends with Sigfredo Garcia. And investigators were able to show and find video where the two of them were on camera at an ATM in Miami about 8 hours after the murder.
They were lower-level criminals, offered some sum of money to come up to North Florida, this little hick town, commit this murder. Everything's going to go easy, right? It didn't work that way.
Investigators had a pretty good idea as to who may have hired Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia, thanks in large part to that police interview they did with Dan Markel's ex-wife, Wendy Adelson.
And your divorce has been 2 years, or the total separation, I'm assuming?
Total separation's been 2 years. Our divorce just finalized last summer around this time.
Wendy Adelson is the ex-wife of someone who has just been murdered, so it's natural to expect that she's going to be the first person that these investigators want to talk to.
Danny didn't treat me very well, and I'm so scared that maybe someone did this. Not because they hate Danny, but because they thought this was good somehow.
Oh, are you saying that you think maybe one of your friends would have done something like this?
Yes.
I don't know. That's why you're here, and that's why we're talking.
She goes in and speaks to the lead detective, Craig Isom, and within moments is telling him how much her own family hates the guy who was just shot and will later die. Of course, that is her ex-husband, Dan Markel.
She also, unprovoked, tells the detective that her brother, Charlie, had joked about hiring a hitman as a divorce gift.
He makes a lot of jokes in bad taste, and it was a joke he made. He knew Danny treated me badly, and it was always this joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV.
Once she throws that out in her police interview, like, you're basically just named your brother as a suspect.
In this case, she found out that her ex-husband, was executed, never asked about her kids. She didn't show the normal reactions a normal person would have in that situation. Was she just trying to pass disinformation on, or was she just that gullible, naive, and not that smart?
Coming up, the connection between the hitmen and the Adelsons.
Were you the middleman between the shooter and Charlie Adelson?
Yes, ma'am.
Plus, the FBI bump.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this.
As Dan Markel's ex-mother-in-law becomes the focus of the investigation. More than a year after the murder of Florida State law professor Dan Markel, investigators believed that his killers were two hired hitmen from South Florida.
They knew this was an execution-style murder. Clearly a professional hit. 2 shots and gone.
Detectives believed the murder was related to Dan Markel's divorce from Wendy Adelson and their custody battle over their 2 young sons. Stephen Webster represented Dan Markel in his divorce. He says he suspected the Adelsons immediately after getting a phone call from the Tallahassee Police Department.
She said, something really bad has happened. And I'll never forget those words. And it hit me. I was like, they killed him. I knew it. I knew it right then and there.
I need to ask you, was your divorce, you said before, it had nothing to do with infidelity, no extramarital affairs or anything like that?
Neither one of us.
Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel met in 2003 while she was in law school and he was working in Washington, D.C.
Dan was happy. His life picture was marriage and the boys and a successful career as a professor. He had no idea that the divorce was coming. He referred to it as a Pearl Harbor style divorce.
When did you separate from Professor Markel?
In the fall of 2012.
Whose decision was it to separate?
It was my decision. It just wasn't a really healthy marriage, and I thought it'd be better for the boys if they didn't grow up thinking that's the way you treat women.
After the divorce, things got extremely ugly between Dan and Wendy over the children. disagreements not only about how the boys would be raised, but where.
Donna Adelson is Wendy Adelson's mother, and after the divorce from Dan Markel, Donna really wanted her daughter and her grandkids to move down to South Florida to be close to her. And it didn't take long for investigators to piece together how involved Donna was in this divorce. They had evidence of emails and text messages back and forth where she is talking about how much she wants this divorce to happen and for the kids to move.
Dan was hurt by Wendy, but he saw Donna as dangerous.
After a judge denied Wendy's petition to relocate to South Florida, Donna was actively plotting with Wendy on outrageous ways to try to get under Dan's skin, including enrolling the kids in a Christian school and even dressing them up in Nazi youth uniforms.
They knew how much his religion meant to him to pass it on to his kids. So they were going to do the exact opposite.
Donna wanted to control every single situation, and here, the ultimate control in her own demented mind was to either get them baptized or have them dress up as Nazis, and that would show Dan Markel that we're in charge, not you.
As detectives worked on the motive for Dan Markel's murder, investigators found a connection between the hitmen and the Adelsons. It was Charlie's ex-girlfriend, Catherine McBanawa.
Charlie Adelson dated a woman named Catherine McBanawa. She was in her 20s, and they started dating around 2013. Catherine met Charlie while she was working at a dental office in Miami, and she also had 2 children with Sigfredo Garcia, one of the 2 accused hitmen.
Katie McBanawa is really the glue that holds together the hitmen on one side and the Adelson family, specifically Charlie Adelson, on the other side, connecting the two and making the picture clear for police.
Well, let me ask you, if you found out that this is someone that you personally know, would that change your mind about what should happen to that person?
If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Regardless of who it is.
I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother, but I don't think it was my family.
But the investigation eventually led directly to Wendy's family, and specifically her brother Charlie, a periodontist who worked at his parents' dental practice in Miami.
What we know is that Charlie Adelson had the money, that he secured the hitmen. Charlie is, in his head, Charlie is the boss of all bosses. Charlie's in South Florida thinking that he's the guy that gets things done.
In 2016, a judge granted investigators permission to listen in on both Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanawa's phone conversations. They decided that in an attempt to get them to start talking about the murder, they would do what is called a bump, and they targeted Charlie's mother, Donna.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. No, don't be scared.
The FBI and the Tallahassee Police Department, they're working together, and they send in an undercover agent to approach Donna on the street. And the agent hands her a piece of paper. It's got an article about Dan Markel's death on it. It also has a phone number written on it and the amount of $5,000.
What they do is they call tickle the bump. And that is you go to co-conspirator suspects you believe were involved, and you make contact with one of them, demanding money, trying to see who they're going to call, who they're going to contact, because you want to find out who all the co-conspirators are.
I want to let you know that my brother, he's incarcerated. He helped your family with this problem you guys had up north. And we want to make sure that he's going through some rough times. We want to make sure that you take care of what he's going through, the way you're taking care of Katie and Tuda. Well, this will explain it.
In this case, Donna, it was perfect for Donna to get the ball. She got it on the way to pick up her grandkids. She took the note, acted very calmly, put it in her pocket. And what did she do? She called Charlie.
Tonight after work for another 20-year future, I need to be with you. Did it all right lottery or something? I'm just what you people want. Hand delivered to me.
Does it involve me or other people?
Well, all people.
What's that?
How old were you for children? Was it connected to the stolen blackmailing you?
The bump also prompted Charlie to meet Katie McBanawa at a restaurant where agents were listening in.
Once the undercover FBI agent hands that sheet of paper over to Donna Adelson demanding $5,000, gets Donna and Charlie nervous, and now law enforcement moves in. They go after the hitmen, the lower level players first, the middle woman, and then ultimately on to the Adelsons.
Coming up, the legal dominoes start to fall for the Adelson family.
Charlie, let's start with the most important question. Did you cause the death of Professor Dan Markel?
Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
In the spring of 2016, almost 2 years after the murder of Florida State law professor Dan Markel, police made their first arrests in the case. Luis Rivera, a Latin King gang member, and his friend, Sigfredo Garcia. They were the two men seen in the silver Prius leaving Tallahassee after Markel was shot.
So Luis Rivera is an interesting figure here. He's a Latin Kings gang member. He's all of probably 5 feet tall tops. Well, he's also got the street smarts because he's the only one in this conspiracy who was offered a deal and actually takes that deal.
6 months later, Catherine McBanawa, the link between the hitmen and the Adelson family, was also arrested. She and Sigfredo Garcia were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for Dan Markel's murder. Prosecutors then turned their attention to Charlie. During Charlie's trial in the fall of 2023, Catherine McBanawa finally came clean and testified about how Charlie recruited her to set up the hit on his former brother-in-law, Dan Markel.
Who came up with the idea to kill Dan Markel?
Charlie. He got in the car with me and he asked me a question.
What was the question?
Do you know anybody that can harm someone?
And did you know anybody that could harm someone?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Who was that?
Sigfredo.
Charlie Adelson took the stand and tried to convince the jury that he was the victim of an extortion plot cooked up by Catherine McBanawa.
Charlie, let's start with the most important question. Did you cause the death of Professor Dan Markel?
Absolutely no.
I was there in the courtroom when Charlie Adelson took the stand. So he told the jury that on the night of Dan Markel's murder, that Catherine McBanawa showed up at his house.
She said, listen, this is all my fault, but I had no idea anything was going to happen, but this is totally my fault. I spoke in too much detail about your family's personal problems, about your sister, Dan Markel, and the $1 million offer.
What did you say?
I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, my friend killed Dan, and he wants to be paid $250,000.
Charlie had to take the stand. He had no choice. He had to take the stand. I think the theory was a bad theory. This extortion theory, the moment I heard it, I thought it was bad. But again, when you did the crime, I don't think they had a lot to work with.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Charlie Adelson was stunned, and he was alone when he was convicted. His parents, Donna and Harvey, decided not to attend his trial.
Even though they weren't in the courtroom for the trial, you know that they were watching the trial and they were glued to it, because as soon as Charlie's convicted on November 6, 2023, for the next week, every single day, Charlie and Donna are on the phone for something like 5.5 hours a day.
I'm saying we'll try to do everything we can to help you. Don't give up, Charlie. No, I'm not giving it up. I just... This was Tallahassee Super Bowl.
There's one particular call that has been labeled an open call, and it's because Donna was on the phone with Charlie, and it was being recorded by the jail, and she thought that he hung up or got disconnected, so she put the phone down, but she doesn't hang up. The line is still open, and everything that she's saying to her husband and other people, it's being recorded.
we've been looking it up over and over. If things change, if there is extradition from Vietnam. Because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but there's no extradition. But we're looking for places where there's no extradition.
She thought she had disconnected the phone call with Charlie, but it was still being captured by the recording system at the jail.
I have one son that I don't speak with. I have one son who's close to being dead. And my daughter, whom I love, is doing this. I don't get it. I don't get it. I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed. Absolutely cursed. And I don't know how to take care of it anymore. So,
Less than a week after that call, Donna and Harvey Adelson were at the gate at Miami International Airport getting ready to board a one-way flight to Vietnam.
Hi, how are you? You have your ID? Mr. Adelson? Yeah.
I don't want to give it to you. Why does it matter? Why don't I have to give it to you? This is evidence.
She gets stopped and she's appalled. She's aghast. Oh my God, arrested for murder? Not this again.
Ma'am, you were arrested on a warrant from Leon County, Florida. It says attempted solicitation, conspiracy to commit a capital felony, homicide.
Within days, Donna Adelson was transferred from Miami to Tallahassee.
I'm not tied to cuffs aren't tied on. No.
Talk about a fall from grace. This is a woman who once had everything, now confined essentially to a little cage inside a jail.
How long have you been incarcerated at the Leon County Detention Facility? Do you recall?
15 and a half months, 470 days.
Coming up, the state's case against Donna Adelson, according to her children.
What did she suggest you could do to get Dan Markel to relent and let you take his kids to South Florida?
She suggested that I pretend that the boys had become Christian.
She had called me and said, I just want to let you know, if the police come around, don't talk to them. And I said, I already did.
I've gained more than a third of my body weight here. The diet is all carbs, no protein.
More than a year after Donna Adelson was arrested for the murder of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel, she tried convincing Judge Stephen Everett that she should be granted bond.
And I can't go to sleep. They've got people screaming and yelling. They bang on the doors. They shake the doors. It sounds like a drum in there. It's horrible.
The difference between Donna Adelson when we see her after she's arrested in 2023 compared to the trial in 2025, you can tell that during the time that she's been incarcerated, she's gained weight. She looks considerably older. Her hair is completely gray.
Donna's bid for bond was rejected, meaning she would stay in jail until her trial. A difficult place to be for a woman who spent most of her life giving orders rather than taking them.
So Donna Adelson can be described as sort of this brash New Yorker. She's originally from Queens. She ends up in South Florida. She becomes the mother to 3 beautiful children.
In the late 1980s, Donna Adelson appeared on the game show Wheel of Fortune.
We now meet Donna Adelson from Coral Springs, Florida. I want to hear all about you, Donna. Let's go.
Well, I'm a domestic coordinator.
A domestic coordinator?
Yes. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my son Robert, who is 16, Charlie, who is 12, Wendy, who is 10, my husband Harvey, who's in the audience, and my dog Sam.
She calls herself on that show a domestic coordinator, just to show you her mindset back then. And then she solves a puzzle, and the puzzle that she solves, in hindsight, is both chilling and ironic.
So I'm writing on this. Again, person is a category. So
Mischief maker.
Yeah, that's it, Donna.
In late August 2025, Donna Adelson walked into the same Leon County courtroom where her son Charlie had been convicted almost 2 years earlier. This time, it was her trial. Donna's husband, Harvey, was in the gallery, along with Dan Markel's parents.
It's day one of trial, and inside the courtroom, it is packed. There's a lot of media interest. It's the same courtroom where Charlie Adelson was tried, same judge, Stephen Everett. And everyone has this heightened sense of anticipation because she's the one that so many people thought set this all up. She's the Matriarch Mastermind, according to the prosecution.
The reason that we're here today is because this defendant, Donna Adelson, was part of a conspiracy to hire a hitman to kill her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Is the defense prepared to give its opening statement at this time?
Yes, Judge.
Donna Adelson was represented by Jackie Fulford, who raised some eyebrows during her opening statement when she referred to Dan Markel by his nickname, Danny.
You're going to hear that Wendy Adelson, the daughter of my client, was married to Danny. And I'm not trying to be informal when I say that. I respect Mr. Markel, Dr. Markel, but because so many people in the trial are going to refer to him as Danny, I'm going to do that if that's okay.
The reaction to Jackie Fulford saying she was going to call him Danny during this trial really went over like a lead balloon. People were pretty surprised that someone who's representing someone who's accused of killing Professor Dan Markel was acting like there was this familiarity between them.
Please call your next witness.
Wendy Adelson.
I think without a doubt, the most highly anticipated moment in Donna's trial was Wendy coming to testify.
Good morning. If you can just take your seat for right now, I'll swear you in when the jurors renew the verdict.
Donna will not stop making eye contact with Wendy, but Wendy literally lifts her chair and turns it away from her mother. She does not want to make eye contact.
My mom was really upset. I think my mom thought my life in Tallahassee wasn't good.
Is it true that you never would have left Dan Markel without your mom's suggestions?
I would have left Danny regardless of anyone else's input. I was very unhappy.
The prosecution wants from Wendy Adelson on the stand the motive. She's the one who can talk about the divorce, how contentious it was, and why her mother, Donna, wanted the boys to move so bad.
I don't imagine that you, Wendy Adelson, could have had a worse person to be in her corner, to be in her ear during that divorce than Donna Adelson.
What did she suggest you could do to get Dan Markel to relent and let you take his kids to South Florida?
She suggested that I pretend that the boys had become Christian.
What about a financial offer? Was that part of it as well?
Yes.
What was the financial offer to be?
I think it was $1 million.
Who was going to pay the $1 million?
My mom, my dad, and my brother.
And they were going to give Dan Markel $1 million for what?
So that I could relocate.
Were you in any way involved in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
No. I did not know it was going to happen, and I did not know any details. I was not involved in any plot to kill Danny.
Wendy Adelson hugged her father, Harvey, as she left the courtroom. The next witness called was her older brother, Robert.
How do you know the defendant in this case, Donna Adelson?
She's my mother.
Who is the leader in the family? Who tends to run the show?
I think my mom.
Would you describe Donna Adelson's personality as being more controlling or more laid back?
I think more on the controlling side.
What about, is she kind of a more assertive person or a more passive person?
More assertive.
Robert Adelson was Donna and Harvey's oldest son, who was estranged from the family.
The state star witness here is Rob Adelson. Takes a stand. He looks similar to Donna Adelson with an Adrian Brody vibe, people say. And he gets up there and he's incredibly credible. He's a doctor. He lives in Albany, New York, and he's able to tell jurors what happened inside the family dynamic, and it played very well with these jurors.
How did you first hear about Dan Markel's murder?
I got a text message, said like, tragedy here, please call.
And are these from Donna Adelson?
Yes. She said, so we just want to let you know that Danny's been shot and they took him to the hospital, but he didn't make it.
Did you end up talking to law enforcement?
They came to my office with 2 agents, and we had an interview.
After that conversation with the FBI, did Donna Adelson ever say anything to you about having talked to law enforcement or the FBI?
She called me and said, just want to let you know, if the police come around, don't talk to them.
Of course.
And I said, I already did.
And what did she say to that?
She said, oh, well, you don't know anything anyway.
Coming up, will Donna Adelson take the stand?
Have you made a decision concerning this matter?
I haven't. I'm not prepared to make that decision. This decision affects the rest of my life.
During her 9-day murder trial, 75-year-old Donna Adelson was warned repeatedly by the judge to avoid showing any emotion or reactions in the courtroom.
I understand this may be a distressing thing for your child to be offering testimony in your trial. However, you are to control your expressions and your emotions. Do you understand those?
It's important inside of a courtroom that you don't show emotion, especially the parties. The judge usually makes sure that everyone knows that. But Donna seemed to have a bit of a struggle with that.
I do not wish to do this in front of the jurors at all, but it's very important that you are able to control your emotions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
During their case, prosecutors presented much of the same evidence that was used to convict Donna's son, Charlie, Catherine McBanawa, and Sigfredo Garcia. But they also had some new evidence linking Donna specifically to Dan Markel's murder.
In Donna Adelson's trial, there's new evidence that we have simply never heard of. And one of them is Donna Adelson's 2014 day planner. She keeps these very OCD-like planners. And in the back of that planner, prosecutors discover a license tag number for Dan Markel's 2008 Honda Accord.
In the very back of that planner, there's a place for names and addresses and notes. Is that where you located the information regarding Dan Markel's tag number?
That's correct. It's after all the calendar months. This note section in the back.
Why would someone have this information inside of their planner? The prosecution wants the jury to believe that the only reason that she would have his car information is so that she can pass it off to Charlie, who could then pass it off to the hitman in this case.
What do you think the best evidence against Donna is?
I think the money being washed, like literally washed.
It was in a bag, in a plastic bag, grocery bag, and I believe there was like a paper bag and then a Ziploc bag inside it.
When you opened the Ziploc bag, did you notice that the money was stapled together?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
It was, okay. When you contacted him and said the money's wet, did he have a response?
Yes, ma'am. He told me, that his mom washed the money.
But she physically washed the money?
Yes, ma'am.
Other evidence linking Donna to the conspiracy included 44 checks from the Adelson Institute written out to Catherine McBanawa and signed by Donna Adelson.
She began receiving checks from Adelson Institute about a little less than 3 months after the murder.
That's correct.
The last check was dated in May of 2016.
That's correct.
Donna Adelson managed the books for the dental clinic, which would mean that any payment that was processed through the dental clinic would have had to at some point come through her.
She paid Katie all these checks. It's clear Donna was involved in the hiring of the hitman.
As the defense case wound down, the big question on everyone's mind was, will Donna Adelson testify?
We had this feeling from the pretrial motions that she was going to testify. There was huge expectation that she was going to take the stand, so we were all wondering, will she or won't she?
Have you made a decision concerning this matter?
I haven't. I'm not prepared to make that decision. This decision affects the rest of my life.
Judge Stephen Ever says, now is your time to decide, are you or aren't you going to testify? And she equivocates with her own defense team. And finally, the judge says, if you don't give me an answer, I'm going to hold you in contempt.
Mrs. Edison, the question remains. As it relates to your right to remain silent, and your right to testify. What is your decision concerning these two rights?
This time I don't want to testify.
During closing arguments, the state focused on Donna Adelson's motivation for wanting to kill Dan Markel. The defense focused on the holes in the prosecution's evidence.
Today is Donna Adelson's turn. She had invested so much of her own time in this fight against Dan Markel to try to get a win for the family. And after all that investment in those kids and all the money spent on the attorneys and all that time spent at the kitchen table working on those divorce filings, Donna Adelson was losing.
There's not a single piece of evidence that connects my client to that murder. Meddles in their lives, gets involved in their divorce. She's a parent. She's just being a parent, not a killer. She's a meddler, not a murderer.
Once they got the case, it only took jurors a little over 3 hours to come back with a verdict.
You had the Markels on one side of the room, the Adelsons on the other. You almost heard this mini explosion coming from Donna Adelson.
We, the jury, find as follows as the count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2. We, the jury, follow.
And as long as I remain on this earth, I am never gonna forget the wail that came from Donna Adelson's mouth. It was this shriek, this cry, and truthfully, it gave me goosebumps.
After everything died down there inside of the courtroom, everyone came back, and that's when the parents of Dan Markel, they were able to have the last word.
She plotted, planned, and paid for his murder. Her middle son, Charlie, was convicted and sentenced to a life in prison for his role in facilitating Danny's murder for hire.
In the Jewish custom, we have an expression to always wish others to live to 120 years of age. For Donna, I wish her to live to 120, alone in her jail cell. My only short question to Donna, was it worth it?
Following the verdict, Donna Adelson was back in court for sentencing and had this to say.
What happened to Danny is unforgivable. But I am an innocent woman convicted of this terrible crime without evidence. There are 2 crimes here. The first was Danny being viciously murdered. The second one is taking my life, the life of an innocent woman. I've always respected the law. I've never gotten a parking ticket, but I'm going to prison for a murder I did not commit. I love these boys more than life itself. This is a lifetime of loss for these children. They didn't deserve this. His family didn't deserve this. Danny didn't deserve this. And so, as I appear before you today, Your Honor, I promise you with my whole heart, I swear to you on my life, I was not involved in any way with Danny's murder. I was not.
Donna Adelson was 75 years old when she was convicted of orchestrating the murder of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel, and will spend the rest of her life in prison. I'm Ted Rowlands. Thanks for watching Victim to Verdict.